All right, can you build big muscle using light weight? Can you build big muscle using light weight? What inspired me to make this video is I saw today, this morning, Jerry Branham, whatever his name is, old school cat, been around a long time. If you really go back and look, he had a good physique at one time. He really did back in his day. Some of the shit he says, totally agree with. Some of the shit he says ain't not quite exactly right. Why? Well, because he's been around a long time. He's written a lot about a lot of things for a long time. But it's kind of like, the comparison is this. You can read about, study about, and write about something a long time, okay? All right, my field, of course. Work on cars for a living. Worked at dealers, worked at independent shops, worked at some high-end dealers in my day. Whenever they make a new car, they come out with a labor-suggested labor guide for the car. They have somebody take this brand new car apart and do different various jobs on the car, and they guesstimate or estimate how much time it should take you to be able to do that job. And they also rate it, like what level of technician you probably need to be or should be. Furthermore, if you go into any of the technical literature, from the manufacturer, they will describe to you how to perform different procedures. Okay, so if you've never taken this apart, you don't know how to get that there item off of the car. Looks like a lot to get to it. How do I do that? And you don't really know, so rather than just dive in there, you may pull it up and look at it and review the literature. Most of the time, whatever they tell you to do is going to be extensively more than what you're actually going to have to do once you know the job and are familiar with the vehicle. You know what I'm saying? So these are engineers. They built and designed the car. And when they tell you how to perform a repair procedure, the steps to go through, it's always very thorough and very exact, but a guy that has a lot of experience and has been doing this day in and day out over and over again, he is almost always going to be able to do that job a little more efficiently than the way it's described in the literature. Maybe this doesn't have to come off. Maybe that bolt doesn't need to come out. It's really not in the way at all if you do this or you move that, and it's less work to do that than to do this. So it's a similar thing. You got guys that read about it, write about it, talk about it, study it, and you have guys that do it. And Jerry was a guy that did both, but he had his day, and I think the majority of the time he's been in the field, it's been reading and writing about it and studying it, et cetera, et cetera. So he knows that side of it, and he knows some of what his experiences have been. Was he ever as big as me? No. Was he ever a professional bodybuilder? No. So, take it for what it's worth. And that's how you should approach anything, I think. Take it for what it's worth. The guy that actually can do it and does it, he has a different perspective. He's not always right, but he has a different angle he's coming from. So, and I say this because I saw his video this morning and he explored the same question. Can you build big muscles lifting light weight? And eventually he got around to saying that study says this, research says that, and that if you take the steps to failure with lighter weight, you will still recruit some of the fast twitch fibers, and you will still, which have the greatest propensity for hypertrophy. But the part left out is the distribution in your body are only about 25% for the average guy of those fibers versus slow twitch fibers, which account for usually about 75% of your muscle makeup. So even though, yes, the fast twitch fibers are actually larger, fiber versus fiber, cell versus cell, they're actually the propensity to be larger, but they're fewer in number by quite a bit on the average person, and that's how it goes. So we're not here to talk about that. What I want to talk about is, can you, if you take every step to failure, can you build big muscle lightweight? And the answer, of course, is yes. Sure, you can build big muscle, but big is relative. Big is relative. I'm saying, can a guy go in there and gain some muscle if that's how he lives and that's the only way he lives? Yeah, sure he can. Can he gain some impressive muscle? Yes. But I'm going to tell you right here, right now, that same guy, if he went heavy and took a sense of failure or close to failure, heavy weights, he's going to get denser and thicker. Nothing's going to put the weight on you like heavy weight. And I know this through not just all the years I've been into this, but modern experience even. Modern experience today. Um, whew. If I, like with a slap tear, find ways around it, how can I hold this muscular size? Not now, because now I'm switched back to going a little heavy again. But back in the day, say go back 6 years ago before I even had the slap tear, I always went heavy. I love to go heavy. I've moved some heavy poundages, some impressive poundages, held my own for my body size with just heavy weight against anybody. Against anybody. Was I one of the strongest guys in the world? No. I wasn't trained to be one of the strongest guys in the world. Was I one of the strongest bodybuilders at my body weight, which was like 300 pounds? Yeah, I was pretty damn strong at 300 pounds. At 300 pounds, I could lift the kind of weight you would expect a 300-pound muscular guy. You would look at him and assume he could lift. Yeah. But after I had the slap tear, and suddenly, this is like I say, 5.5 years ago, I couldn't go heavy like that anymore, and I had to go through a period of just some recovery and healing where I couldn't lift at all. And when I came back, because I couldn't go heavy anymore, I had to find ways to still stimulate and to be able to recapture, regain as much of that muscularity as possible without going heavy now. And I did a combination of both before anyway, initially. So now the heavy shit's out, or the really heavy shit's out. The heavy compounds are out. The real heavy compounds are out. Okay, so yeah, I brought back a lot of muscle over these past years. You've seen me in videos. You know that I'm still pretty big. I've been big. I'm bigger now, but I'm going heavier again. But I could never gain back the density, the thickness, just that brutal, dense muscle, lifting light, going to failure or not. I'm sorry. Ain't going to happen. Can I get big? Hold some good muscle? Sure. Am I going to get as big? No. No, not going to get as big. He also mentions in there to some of the bigger bodybuilders he trained with back in the day, or that he shot pictures of training or talked to or whatever, that he was surprised by some of the lighter weights they lifted. Well, the thing is this, it's not that they're not capable of lifting heavy weight. Because he also pointed out that they find out it's not a golden rule that more muscle equals more strength between individuals. But just subjectively, individual to individual, okay? Subjectively for you and for me, okay? Not objectively, not overlooking a bunch of individuals, different sizes and different amounts of muscle mass. Just you and me individually, individual case-by-case basis. You're going to be stronger the more muscle you have. I'm going to be stronger the more muscle I have. Now, a guy that totally trains for strength, an Olympic lifter, whatever, he might weigh less, look like he's got less muscle, maybe stronger in some lifts. Why? Because he's trained those lifts, he's perfected those lifts, he's exploited every advantage as far as form goes, mechanics goes, and every other thing. And there's, of course, genetic component in the way he trains. So, yeah, it's true. But individually, and that's what you need to worry about, because you can't build that guy's muscle, and he can't build your muscle. Only you can build your muscle, and he has to build his own muscle. So don't worry about that bullshit. Worry about what you can do. And yes, heavier weight is going to make you bigger. And yes, if you're bigger, you will be stronger, whether it was through lightweight or heavyweight. Perfect example of this. When the heavy compounds were out, I was still a pretty powerful guy. Once I had good stability and could lock into a position where it wasn't going to screw the shoulder up any worse, and I could comfortably do that, safely do that, I could still go very heavy on isolation exercises. Well, if I go very heavy on all these various isolation exercises, what do you think that adds up to if I wanted to try and see how strong I was with a compound movement? With all these muscles now that I train heavily individually and have developed that way individually, if I put them all together for a compound lift, all out try, don't you think that's going to add up to some strength? It is. It absolutely is. So in a lot of cases, a lot of these guys, it's not that they're not capable of going heavy. It's that they don't need to go heavy in that regard. They don't need risk versus reward. Risk versus reward. Now, I'm going heavy. I'm pushing the limits of mechanically of what's really safe and practical for me today. But I am being careful. I'm using a modicum of safety and caution. But now that I've been going heavy, of course, a lot of it's got to do with food. I'm eating a shit ton of food, a lot of food. That's a danger and hazard in itself. It really is, believe it or not. But now that I'm going heavier, I'm definitely denser and thicker. I'm putting that dense muscle back on. Nowhere near where I was way back in the day when I was at my peak, but I've definitely gotten thicker and gotten denser and gotten harder from that heavier weight. So, can you lift light weights and get big if you take yourself to failure, blah, blah, blah? Sure you can, of course you can. Sure you can. Would individual to individual, would you be bigger if you incorporated some really heavy work, compound shit? Yes. Yes, you have the potential to be, certainly to be bigger, much more greater potential to be bigger than if you only lifted lightweight and went to failure. Absolutely. Same with me, same with every individual. It's just the way it is.